evening, everyone, and welcome to Valley Cablevision's Kickoff Show, a preview of our Valley High School football teams. In our first segment this evening, we have the head football coach of the Seymour Wildcats, along with his three captains for this year. First of all, Coach Paul Sponheimer. Welcome to Cable 10 Sports, our Kickoff Show. And to Coach Sponheimer's far left, Mark Casiello. We have next Paul Connick, and the third tri-captain for the Seymour Wildcats, we have Sean Lopresti. Welcome, men, and welcome, Coach Paul Sponheimer.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to see you guys. I know you're getting into the last week before opening up. You've undergone 3 scrimmages. Coach, you lost 11 seniors last year. Are you satisfied as to the progress of your football team so far?
Buddy, you're a coach. You're never satisfied. I am satisfied from a sense of certain things that have happened thus far in our 3 scrimmages and our practice sessions. We did lose 11 seniors that were extremely good football players, and they'll be missed, but as every high school football team's program goes on, every year people graduate, thank God, and we just have to start rebuilding and find new appliances to fill those slots.
Paul, one area where where we know that you're going to be missing a lot of fine athletes is that offensive line. Let's take a look now at your offensive line in action last year against the Lyman Hall Trojans.
Paul, I know that everyone except Sean has graduated on that group, and you have to replace him, and it's a tough thing to do. And as you said, time marches on. Who on the offensive line has been impressive besides Sean so far this year? You can see last year, excellent takeoff by the group and the ability to run that football, and that I think helped your passing game. Are you going to be able to do that again this year?
Well, thus far, we have, replacements to fit in. Paul Connick is moving over from just being a defensive tackle to an offensive tackle, and Sean Lopresti has done nothing but grow and impress opposing coaches thus far in the preseason. We have about 4 other boys that we're looking at to fill in 3 positions. I've made a decision. Richie Connors will be our center. Kip Anderson will be our right offensive guard, and right now Matt Klemovich will be our left offensive guard, and Chris Larkin has shown that we have an adequate person on a high school level to be a swing person for us there. We lost 4 fine people up front there, and we don't have to mention the names of the people that we've lost, because if you follow high school football, you know who they are. But probably the reason everybody's concerned about what we lost in the offensive line is most of them were fixtures there since they were sophomores. And as coaches, we just have to realize that we're starting over, and these are the cards we have to play, and we've got to make sure we get the 11 best cards in the game at the right time.
Paul, that offensive line is going to be protecting a first-year quarterback for you, of course. Last year you had a great job, but 1 year at the position by Justin Tanner. You got a fine young man stepping in this year in Pete Del Toro.
Peter is an extremely nice young boy. He's a very bright student. He's in our honors program at Seymour. He carries a 94 average in the honors program, which helps at the quarterback position, especially under Coach Keller's direction. Our offense can become very complex for opposing teams. It can also become very complex for our own team if you don't have a general behind the center. And right now we are extremely happy with what Peter Del Toro did for himself and the Seymour football program over the summer in coming back with a good head on his shoulder.
Sean, before we get away from the offensive line, has the cohesion started to develop between the offensive line people? Some people don't understand the cohesion necessary in the line calls. Has it started for you?
Yeah, definitely. We're all coming together, all learn how to block, becoming a family.
That's what it takes. Some people don't understand that's necessary. Who is playing next to you now that you will be pardoned with this year?
Kip Anderson, a sophomore.
Sophomore. That's a pretty big responsibility.
Yep.
That's good.
We've talked a little bit about the offense. Let's get into the running back area for you, Paul. You do have some experience coming back at the running back position. I'm talking about Moroni Burchell along with Billy Brooks.
Correct, and David Dewey also. Coming out of spring football, if I had to say who had the the upper hand at the tailback position, it was David Dewey. Thus far, Billy Brooks has shown us more in preseason camp here. But yes, we're blessed with three what could be good high school running backs. Moroni Burchell, although he wasn't a starter for us, filled in 2 key games. You just saw him probably running in place of Joel Mastro last year in the Lyman Hall game. And he averaged 8.5 yards per carry. Okay, he didn't have great stats as far. I think he had 390 some odd yards, but he averaged 8.5 yards per carry. Billy Brooks had 1 start in the Sheehan game, and because of our offensive line being the athletes they were last year, he had a great game against them. And his average, which might be a little high just because of that 1 football game, but he averaged 9.2. If both of them could keep up the average, it'll make the game real easy for us this year. Dave Dewey has extremely good speed as an adequate backup. Donnie Realstone and Chris Pernetta are both doing a good job backing us up at the fullback position.
Let's switch to the other side of the ball now. Let's talk about the defense, and if we get an opportunity, we can see the Seymour defense against Shelton in your game last year, an exciting game at the Barber Field. This next sequence, and when we do see it, it's going to be your defense on a fumble recovery. It's going to be a completed pass to the Shelton receiver. Ball pops up, and coming up with the ball, Glenn Fritz, one of those many seniors, of course, that you're not going to have back there in the defensive secondary. Let's talk about the defense.
Defensively, right now, we're starting to put the parts together. Because our quarterback was so young, we felt we had to spend our entire spring developing him. And we've just really turned in preseason here to our defensive schemes, and we're starting to find the parts that have to go together. Paul returns as a defensive tackle. Mark returns as a defensive back. Chris Pernetta, who has come light years from last year as far as his aggressiveness at an outside linebacker, and Moroni Burchell, who was an outside linebacker this year, will be lining up at the defensive end. And so we have a little more experience defensively as far as veterans returning. Sean saw some action last year spelling people at the defensive tackle position, and he's worked very hard on his athletic ability, and we've been able to move him out to a defensive end. And when you can put a kid 6'3", 222 at a defensive end and still skate to the outside, you're in pretty good shape. Last year, Paul demanded double teams, and hopefully he'll have to demand double teams this year. Matt Klemovich and Donnie Realstone, who are small in stature but are playing with huge hearts right now, have locked up the 2 inside linebacker position. Freddie Galarraga is an outside backer. Greg Baker is jumping over as a safety for us, along with Dave Dewey and Ray Szynski battling for the other corner position. The one thing I have to say about my seniors this year, there are only 9 of them. And right now, 9 of them have worked their way into a starting position. I can't be happier with my 9 seniors. Everyone is contributing to their athletic ability.
Paul, while we're talking about the defense, I know people are concerned about your health. How do you feel?
Good. I'm back.
Back?
Yeah.
Defensively, who are some of the people that may help you on that defensive front?
Well, there's a couple young defensive tackles, but they're coming along real good. They're very aggressive, which would be Julio DeVellis is working good, Lou Aloa, and John Karpovich, which they're all working in at defensive tackle next to me, and they're doing a real good job.
Good. Maybe we can get a quick piece of tape on Mark, too. We've got, Mark, you moved over from the wideout a little bit to defense or to tight end. Has it been a major change for you?
Not really. The major difference between
Here you are. Let me go what you're talking about. We'll get a catch from you last year.
This will be Justin Tanner throwing out to also against Shelton to Mark.
No problem catching it, huh? Tight end position different?
Really, the only difference is I'm a little closer, and I like it better because going out from the wideout position, it took a little longer time and more commotion underneath. But from the tight end position, I like its quick hits right up the middle.
Will they move you back into the slot and allow you to move?
You mean like wishbone?
Not only the wishbone, but last year you took your tight end, put him in the slot. You going to do that a little bit?
The running play?
Running plays?
We haven't gone over that yet, but I'm sure we've gone over slot formations and plug formations where I go to a wideout, a lot of motion, so we're getting more complex every day.
Good.
Paul, quickly, Coach Sponheimer, teams to beat in the Housatonic League.
Teams to beat in the Housatonic League. On paper, North Haven. They have a lot returning. Cheshire, for the simple reason they usually get the numbers out. Steve Adazio did a great job last year in his first year there. which I'm sure is going to draw more young men out to play the game of football. Derby has a lot returning. Shelton, although they lost 25 seniors, I know Tony and his staff will come up with a fine team, and he's got some studs coming back also. And so I look for those people. I know Phil Artosian up there in Wallingford has a fine tailback coming back, along with a couple big boys up front. And I've heard things about Brantford. I think it's going to be, maybe it won't be one team or two teams or three teams as it's been the last couple of years battling it out. It might be spread out a little more, and I think the team that doesn't beat themselves and maybe catches a couple breaks will come down and see the old trophy at the end.
Thanks, Coach Sponheimer and the tri-captains from the Seymour Wildcats. Right after this message, we'll be right back with the Amity Spartan head football coach, Len Butch Marazzi. Here's action from the Amity Derby football game last year, Housatonic League game, and this is Brett Dedman, the ball carrier for the Amity Spartans, just a sophomore running back last year, a junior this year, expected to be a big part of the Amity offense. Let's welcome for this segment of our kickoff show the third-year head football coach of the Amity Spartans, Len Butch Marazzi. Welcome, Coach, and his three tri-captains for the 1989 football season. From left to right, we have Darren Murray, Jason Riccitelli, and Todd Hollick. Welcome, men.
Coach, Brett Dedman, obviously a big part of the offense. Who else is going to help him out in that backfield this year?
Brett was a pleasant surprise last year, really playing quite a bit as a sophomore, and we expect him to not only play tailback this year, but also fullback. A senior by the name of Joe Waddy, I think, will certainly be an effective weapon for us in the backfield at tailback. And we have two fullbacks, junior Mike Slomsky and senior Ed Liu, who I think will do a fine job for us.
Now, Butch, we all know that you can have the finest running backs, but you need that offensive line in front of you. At the end of last year, you had an opportunity to play an awful lot of younger players on that offensive line. And I happen to think going into this season that that's one of the strengths of the Amity football team, the offensive line.
Yes, Ed, at this point I believe that, and the coaching staff believes that, our offensive and defensive lines are going to have to really do the job for us to be successful this year. These three guys that are here tonight with me are certainly a key part of it. They've played last year, and they even played some during their sophomore year, and they've been in the program now 3 years, and they're starting to get a real handle on what's expected up front. And we've been very successful in our scrimmages to this point, and I think they're going to be, for us to be successful this year, they're going to have to get the job done.
Jason, you've gone from fullback to offensive setter. What kind of adjustment has it been for you?
Well, it was tough at first, getting used to all the different calls and stuff. But, once I got there, it wasn't that hard.
Would you rather be a center or a fullback?
No way. Everybody wants to be a running back, but, you have
Has
to be a lineman.
the adjustment of snapping the ball and making the block been a difficult thing? Because that's usually a tough thing for a lineman to do, and you've gone from the fullback position and made that adjustment.
No, it really wasn't a problem for me. I'm on the quicker side, and it's kind of easy.
Todd, you've been there now, and since a sophomore year, you're playing both ways. Has it been an adjustment in playing both ways for you, and has it been difficult?
I'm relatively new to the sport of football, you could say. I've only started 2 years ago, and the first year that I played, I only played defense. And last year I did play both offense and defense. And I did not play a full game, but I think this year many of our starters are going to have to play both ways most of the game, and that's going to be tough this year.
Maybe we can bring up the first segment or the next segment of tape while we're doing it. Darren, defensively, now I know you've made an adjustment also. Last year, Amity's defense had some very fine moments. As you can see here, one of them, Stanley Phillips, in a big play against Derby, a game that you guys played outstanding for 3 quarters, and you had Derby on the ropes a little bit. You've had to move from a down position to a linebacker position. What kind of adjustment has that been for you?
Well, it's mainly the reason it's been a lot easier is because our defensive tackles done a fine job holding up their tackles and holding their ground, so I could scrape and get to where I need to go. But I'm still learning a lot, and I think the scrimmages are helping me you know, I've been working hard in the weight room, and I got some decent speed, so the tackles are doing a fine job for me, so I'm just trying to step up and do my job.
Coach Marazzi, let's get into the quarterback position. You've rotated 3 young men at the quarterback spot this year. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we have a pleasant battle going right now. I think at this point, Greg Hulcher has assumed the #1 spot, but Bill DeMayo and Jeff Love, Billy being a senior and Jeff Love a junior, have certainly battled like heck for the position, and they all want it. And I think Gregory has it right now, but the other 2 young men aren't quite ready to give it up yet. So we're still going through our next scrimmage and see what happens.
Coach, speaking about scrimmages, how have you fared so far in the 3 that you've had?
To be honest, we've lost 2 and won 1, but I think it goes beyond the score. Against Naugatuck, we played very well, but Craig has a very young team, and I think that there's certainly going to be somebody in the next few years that people are going to have to worry about. We played Jonathan Law, and Frank Lesterborough has a fine club down there, and we got beat 15-14 at the end of the game, and we made some mistakes, and we're learning. The other night we played Notre Dame, and as everybody knows, Notre Dame year in and year out is a real good team, and we did some good things, but we're making mistakes that have plagued us in all 3 years that I've been here, penalties and fumbles and things like that. And to be a good team, especially in the Housatonic League, you can't make mistakes. So we're still working our tails off to cut down on our errors.
Coach, defensively, you've made some adjustments. I know you've changed a little bit of the defensive front. What can we look for defensively from the Spartans?
I think you're going to see a much more aggressive defense. It seems in our 3 scrimmages that we've really been very attacking, and we're going to continue to attack and send people and be as aggressive as we can and try to make things happen.
Butch team or the teams to beat in the Housatonic League? I always have fun with this question.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. You know, it seems year in and year out. Of course, you always have the Valley schools. They're well coached and the kids play real hard. But I think you have to. North Haven this year certainly should be a contender, and Brantford and Cheshire are on the upbeat. And I think it, dependent upon injuries, as all coaches will say, at the end of the year, who knows who's going to be on top. I really think it's going to be a great season this year in the Hoosie.
Speaking about Brantford, your opening game, tough opener.
Yes, Brantford has done very, very well in their scrimmages. Lenny and I coached together 10 years at Brantford, and we're good friends. And he's really optimistic, and he thinks they're on the way, and I think we're on the way, and I think we're going to have a hell of a game on the 15th.
Quickly, too, Coach, I know we talked at the end of last year. You wanted to institute more of a weight program, an off-season training program, and I have to think that that's starting to pay some dividends.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. We've seen a real decrease in the number of injuries we've had. We are substantially bigger and stronger, and it certainly is paying dividends right now, especially up front where these people are concerned.
Thanks, Coach Marazzi, and we'll be right back with the next segment, and that is Coach Craig Peters of the Naugatuck Greyhounds and his captains right after this message. This is action from the Naugatuck-Ansonia football game, Turkey Day, 1988. Interception by linebacker Dan Simoes of the Greyhounds. Dan Simoes coming into this football season was expected to be a big part of the Naugatuck team, and however, an injury has slowed up Dan this year. We'll be getting into that a little bit more with the head football coach of the Naugatuck Greyhounds, and let's introduce right now veteran head football coach of the Naugatuck Greyhounds. As a matter of fact, Craig Peters in his 17th year as the head coach at Naugatuck. Welcome, Craig Peters. And Craig has brought 2 of his captains for this 1989 football season. From left to right, we have Clarence Winston, middle guard for the Naugatuck Greyhounds, and next to Clarence, we have running back John Black. Welcome, gentlemen.
Coach, you went into the season last year with a veteran group of players. You lost 17 of those young men. Right now, how do you feel about the outlook for your season?
Well, we feel very, very optimistic about the outlook for this season. We lost quite a few boys, including Mudry, Plasky, Mezzo, 2 big tackles, and Swanson and Malls. But the people who have come into play and take their place have a great attitude as far as wanting to learn, wanting to hustle, wanting to work. And as a coach, that's what you have. That's all you can ask for. These guys are really kind of going on the upbeat now, and knowing that they have to take over, and they're working very, very hard to do that.
Craig, we saw on the tape just a moment ago Dan Simoes. He's been a 2-year starter for you at linebacker, started ever since he's been a sophomore. I alluded to the fact that he's injured. What's his status? Will you get him back for this season?
Yes, that's another one of our losses, is Dan, and we'll have to take it, weeks at a time to see if he's going to make it back. But we feel as though he could possibly make it back on the team toward the latter half of the season.
Knee injury?
Yes, it was.
Coach, we'll go to a second tape, and it's of Rob Plasky, another guy that you mentioned you lost. Offensively, the backfield, you lost a number of people. Who are some of the prospects that you're going to have this year? You'll see Plasky here in a great play in the Seymour game, and he's not back for you. Who do you look for to fit in for that offensive group?
Well, right now we have a good situation in that we have 2 juniors doing very well at the quarterback position, Greg Murphy and John Fruin. They're both very, very good kids as far as their work ethic on the field. They work very, very hard, they hustle, and they're good leaders. We also have in the backfield John Black returning, our captain, Jeff Pichetti, another returning back. He plays fullback for us, and Vic Fonseca. He's another halfback that we have. So we do have some good talent in the backfield to replace what we've lost, and we have a fine battle going on at quarterback. And Fruin is probably the more gifted athlete, so he can play some other places for us if Murphy works out at quarterback.
Craig, let's talk about the receivers spot. Just a moment ago, we had seen Eric Mudry catch the pass from Rob Plasky. Who do we look for receivers for Naugatuck? I know you have a big number 41 that you might be working in at tight end. I'm talking about Al McLean.
Yes, Alan McLean's came out in the middle of the last season, and it was his first taste of football. And he's done very, very well, and he's working in at tight end for us. And he's about 6'4", 220. He's a big kid and plays basketball and a great athlete. As I mentioned, Fruin might see some action at wide receiver. We have some other kids, Rich Policia, Jeff Smith, John Creelan. They're all working in at receiver, and they're coming along. They're coming along very well for us.
Now, go ahead, Bud.
Oh, I was going to mention to John, you just mentioned John playing halfback. I know you go both ways. Do you enjoy playing offense or defense, or does it matter to you?
Offense, I've been playing already all last year, but defense is sort of new for me this year.
Big adjustment for you?
Not too bad. Just got to work a little harder.
Good. Good luck.
And Clarence, we know you play the middle guard. You are not maybe a prototype middle guard, but I don't think there's anybody quicker than you are at that position. I know you started there last year. What does the defense look like for the Greyhounds this year? What are some of the young men to look for?
Some of the men look for Benny Paldino, Bill Lillis, Al Terry. They're real good. They're working out real good.
And how do you play? How do you like playing the middle guard? I mean, having seen you in action, I got to think you like it. You visit that backfield, that opposing backfield, very often.
I love playing nose guard.
Does Coach let you stun a little bit?
Yeah.
You have freedom to move?
Yeah.
Good. Coach, what about that 50? You going to stay in that 50 front again this year? And what about defensively?
Well,
You've always been a strong defensive group.
I've coached for 22 years, and I've coached 22 years of 50 defense. I don't think we should change now.
I know we played you last week, and you do a great job. Your linebackers have excellent reads, and they scrape very well. It makes it very difficult to get out on the option. How much movement do you allow your kids out of that 50?
Well, we always start out in a base 50, and then we build from there. If you can't play the 50, we feel sitting and attacking and reading, then you can't play the moving 50. So we always start out in that, and then we go from there. And pleasantly, we are having some success with the base, and now we're building and moving, and we're having some success stunting off the 50. And if you don't play the 50 well to begin with, and then you start to stunt too early, you'll find out that you're missing a lot of tackles on the run. And that's not happening to us right now. So we feel very good about the defense.
Craig, the early part of your season, I think it's a key for you. You have a young team, no question about it, not that many seniors. And that first part of the schedule is a very tough one for you. You open up on the road against Watertown, then you come right back the next week, Torrington. Third week of the season, you have Walcott. Key for you early.
Yes, it is. Watertown comes in with a big team and a lot of returning people. Physically big, 250 in the front line. and they should be maybe the favorites for the league right off, I would say. So we go up against a good football team, but I feel good again about that game because I think our kids have come along now in our scrimmages, and we're going to be ready for them.
Craig, the Naugatuck Valley League for the last couple of years has gone to the small division, large division format. And I know at the end of 2 years there was going to be a sitting down of the coaches, the athletic directors, to discuss it. Any changes that we can see for 1989 in that format, in that playoff system?
There won't be any changes at all. We sat down at the end of the year, we discussed the format that we had, and we discussed the success that we had in that format. And it was a unanimous vote to keep the same format as we've had and for the next 2 years. And the proof was in the 2 championship games that we had 2 years ago. Torrington played Ansonia and won in Municipal Stadium, and a come-from-behind victory in a very, very cold day, maybe 15 or 20 below zero with a wind chill factor. And then last year we played Sacred Heart at night, and again, a come-from-behind victory, this time by the Greyhounds, to win the league championship. So the success that we've had with our league championship setup has been very, very good.
Craig, not only was it a come-from-behind effort by you, but it was decided by the Kansas tiebreaker.
Yes, it was. That did add to it. And it was a tremendous football game for the players and a tremendous football game for the fans. And when you get that type of thing, you know you've done something right in setting it up.
Quickly, what kind of improvements can we expect at Veterans Field? I know now you're playing on a first-class field.
Yes, we've had all new turf at the field with an irrigation system. We have a little bit of a problem that it doesn't drain as well as we'd like it to, but we are working with that problem, and we're trying to fix that problem. And we have some permanent grandstands going in. October 1, give or take a week, is the schedule right now. So we will be playing some games without the grandstands, and then toward the end of the season we'll be playing some football games with the grandstand.
Thanks, Coach. And we'll be right back with the next segment of our kickoff show, a look, a preview of our Valley High School football teams right after this message. Here is action from the Shelton-Newington state title game, L Division. Todd Gossert pours in, spoils an extra point attempt by the Newington Indians that would have tied the game. On the end of that play, Jamie Dykes, you see number 17, along with Brian McGovern, celebrating what proved to be a 10-9 Shelton win. And for this segment, we welcome the second-year head football coach of the Shelton Gales, Tony Branca. And
Hi, Eddie.
How you doing, Tony? And to Coach Branca's left, we have 2 of his captains for this 1989 football season. We have Todd Gossert, the young man who blocked that extra point attempt. And next to Todd, we have the big bulldozing running back of the Shelton Gales, John Kearns. Welcome, gentlemen.
Coach, we look for a repeat. I know you had a great first year. Has it been tough getting back down to earth into the second season for your team and yourself?
We were up at the time, but as you know, when you lose as many seniors as we lost, you're looking towards next season. The kids want to try to come back and repeat as everybody would expect them to, but we have a lot of young kids on the team this year, and what we're trying to do with the team this year is to achieve our best, regardless of what may come out in the end. The kids are working very hard right now. We have, as you well know, our 3 captains are the only 3 returning starters that we've had from the state championship team. All the rest of the kids have graduated, and the majority of our team is a lot of young kids, and they're learning. We're in the learning process right now because we do so many things offensively and defensively. It's going to take a little time for them to adjust and get prepared for the things that we want them to do, but we're pretty pleased as a coaching staff right now about the way things are going.
Todd, that was obviously one of the biggest plays in the season last year, the blocking of the extra point. How did you feel, and how do you feel right now coming into the season?
Last season when I blocked it, it was more of a feeling of shock than anything else. I didn't even realize I did it until my teammates grabbed me and said that I finally did it. But like Coach said, there's a lot of younger kids coming on the team now, and they weren't at they were at the game, but they didn't play, but the feeling is still there from that, and it's carried over from that game.
Good.
Coach, the Shelton Gales, the last several years, a trademark is defense. We're going to get a look at that defense in action in this particular segment. We're going to see some action against the Seymour Wildcats. The Seymour Wildcat runner through the line of scrimmage, and there's going to be a big hit put on by number 45, Steve Anderson. Fumble recovery by Steve Kalovich. And Coach, let's talk about the Shelton defense this year. A lot of losses from last year.
A lot of losses, Ed. As you know, we do have a great tradition of defense in Shelton, and we still look to have that. The kids have been groomed and matured and brought up in Shelton knowing that that's the type of defense that we play, and we have a lot of great pride in it, and our kids just seem to want to play it. I mean, we give them basic responsibilities, and it seems like when we go from one side of the ball to the other, when we're on that defense, our kids just want to be to the football. A lot of people have said that one of the reasons that we have the defense that we have is because we have great pursuit to the football. And that comes with looking at Shelton football as a youth and knowing that someday when you're there, you want to be part of that. And when your time comes, you do it.
Now, Coach, of course, for the taping this evening, one of your tri-captains this year, unable to be with us, of course, Scott DeMarco. He's a two-way player. He's going to be a big player for you on defense. Todd, of course, a standout linebacker. John has played defense, and a new position for John defensively this year. John, middle guard.
Yeah, really, I had it last year. He did pretty good. I think I could.
Pretty good. I think he did a little better than pretty good. Go ahead, John.
I think I can follow footsteps. I'll take up the challenge. We had a lot of good middle tackles, and I think I'd take the challenge.
John, what about offense for yourself this year? We saw you run in that particular, or we're going to see you in a wild run out of the fullback spot last year. Where does Coach Branca have you running out of the backfield this year?
Still fullback, but I think I do pretty good this year. I have no goals this year. I just think I just want to win the season, play games, just try to win.
Coach, maybe we can bring up that. We'll see a picture of John on the run. You've lost Keith White at quarterback, a couple of other players, Steve Kalovich. How does that backfield shape up along with John? You see here a great run. Again, I think it's against Seymour.
It is.
And you've got one part of the backfield back. Who else is in there?
Well, right now we're in a dilemma because the backup quarterback and our supposed starting quarterback for this year, R.J. Rondini, sprained his ankle in the first scrimmage we had of the season. It was a good sprain, so we really haven't had a chance to see him in any of our scrimmages since then. And we have two sophomores who they look pretty good. They really do. They're battling each other. We like that type of competition when you're going for a position. But as it looks right now, depending on how RJ's ankle comes along, that we'll be looking at Dan Fields in the backfield for the quarterback. At halfbacks, we have two good football players. Matt Coffin, who was a good JV halfback last year, ran the ball very well. He's running exceptionally well for us this year. And Mark Sapkowski, who's taken on the challenge. He had some back problems last year, and we didn't see too much of him in action. But this year he's healthy, he's running the ball well, and we feel we're pretty solid in the backfield.
Coach, let's switch it back a little bit to the offense now. Now, we know you have the running backs, and even though your quarterbacks are on the young side, they've been looking good thus far. Let's go to that offensive line. You only return one young man, and again, that's Scott DeMarco. Well, let's talk a little bit about that offensive line. Who are some of the players you're counting on there?
Well, being an offensive line coach, you hit me hard on that one, Ned. You're right. Scott DeMarco is the center hub of our offensive line. Some of the kids that we'll be looking at this year is Dan Bobby at right guard, who's a returning offensive lineman. He's a senior this year. Jesse Roleader at right tackle. On the left side, we have a young sophomore kid by the name of Leon Sylvester, and at left tackle, we'll have a kid, Jay Kleinig. And all of those kids, because of the inexperience or the lack of experience from last year's team, they're still picking it up. You know, we're trying to do a lot of different types of blocking this year. Last year, as you know, we had a pretty good-sized line, and we were able to just go toe-to-toe with people and just go straight ahead and block, and we had John running the ball for us. So we were getting substantial yardage just running. But we have a lot of different blocking schemes this year because we're not that big up front. A lot of pull and double team and trapping down and stuff. And it's going to take a little time for them to adjust. I feel that they're taking steps every day.
Receivers, what about the situation there? Again, an area pretty much that you're wiped out from last year.
We've been wiped out, Ed. Andy Aldo will be one of our receiver spots. We have Alan Keklik, both of who are juniors. Once in a while, you'll see Todd Gossard out there when we need to. Well, I'm not going to give away secrets now, run or pass the ball. But we'll be shuffling those people in and out. We have a lot of kids who can fill that spot, but still, because we're so young, we're dependent a lot on our last scrimmage to make final decisions.
Coach, team, or teams to beat in the Housatonic League?
Ask a Valley coach, and the Valley coach is going to say a Valley team. But I think that aside from the teams in the Valley, North Haven should be a contender. They have a lot of big, strong, tough people there, a lot of returning people, and I feel that outside the Valley teams, that North Haven should be right up there.
I know, Coach, everyone's looking to you guys as being a strong group, and I know you will be.
Hopefully we will.
You will be.
Coach, one final question, and that is, a lot has been written about the status of the lights at Finn Stadium. What's the update? What can we expect in the future?
The update changes every day, Ed.
Okay, what's
the latest update of today is they will be starting to put in the lights Monday. They were going to start putting them in Saturday, but because of our scrimmage at home, they're going to delay it till Monday, and we've been promised that it would take 2 weeks to put them in and they'll be done. So we will have lights. I don't believe our first 2 games are away. Our third game is against Amity, but because of the holiday, it's Friday afternoon. But Brantford should be our first night game.
Thanks, Coach Branca, and we'll be right back with our next Valley High School football coach right after this message, and that Valley football coach will be Charlie DeCenzo of the Derby Red Raiders. This is action from the Derby Amity football game last year. Chris Gradadoria, junior quarterback, connecting with one of the captains from the 1988 football team, Chris Anderson, for a Derby touchdown against Amity. We welcome to this segment of our kickoff show, our preview of our Valley High School football teams, very successful head football coach of the Derby Red Raiders, now in his 7th year as the head football coach, Coach Charlie DeCenzo. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you.
And Coach DeCenzo has brought along 3 of his 4 captains for this 1989 football season. From left to right, first of all, we have Mike Valentine, offensive lineman, and also a linebacker on defense. And next to Mike Valentine, we have Mike Giannetti, two-way standout also for the Derby Red Raiders. And next to Mike Giannetti, we have Todd Hunter for the Derby Red Raiders, tight end on offense and also plays an awful lot on defense. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Coach, you returned Chris Gradadoria along with a number of returning veterans. Sometimes that can be a liability to a coach. Kids think that the season is over when they show up in the spring. Has that been a difficulty for you?
I think it was early on. We went into the hand scrimmage, our first scrimmage. We really didn't do what we wanted to do. And when we got back, we had a little talk with the boys. And, you know, we told them, you can't believe in everything people are telling us. You can't be reading your own press clippings. That's kind of a theme that we try to educate them to anyway all throughout the year. But I think since then, we went into our Xavier scrimmage, played a little better, and we played pretty well against Hamden. I think the boys are starting to understand, buddy, the value of hard work and the very fact that people can tell us we're good, but until you prove it on the field, it doesn't much matter.
Charlie, this is your 7th year as the head football coach of the Derby Red Raiders. Of course, before that, longtime assistant under Lou DiFilippo. I have down one of my notes, best skill people that you have had in a long time.
I think you're right, Ed. I can't deny it. We feel we return some good backs. Matter of fact, we have like 2 different sets of backs that we'll be using. Mikey will be one fullback, and Jason Palmieri will be the other, and Johnny and Roman and Michael Traz will work as the tailbacks, and we're going to play them all 4. They're all good ball players, and they deserve to play. We have some good split receivers. And again, we've got a little bit of depth there. Jeff Owens, Steve Kutcher, Stevie Pizzato, Brian Mercutio, and again, they're all going to play. And for the first time in a number of years, we bring back an experienced quarterback, and behind Chris, we have Joe Martin and a sophomore, Ben Bartone. And again, I feel they're legitimate players. And I hope it never happened, but if Chris had to miss a game, I feel very comfortable for having a person like Joe standing behind him.
Michael, Coach just mentioned that you're playing in the backfield. Last year, you played a defensive end. We've got a tape coming up of a play last year that you were involved in on defense. Has there been a big adjustment for you moving into that linebacker position from that defensive end?
Well, it was a big change because more responsibility. You know, it's a harder position, but I could probably handle it.
Who on defense now are some of the young people that we can look for to help some of your returning veterans?
Todd Hunter, you know, he's going to fill a good position. Mike. Then we got Jason Palmieri, who's doing a great job. You know, we got a lot of young kids, too, on the line. We got, what's his name? Carlos Ortez and Dave Chavarella as defensive end. They're going to help a lot.
Coach, back to you. Another strength, and Mike has touched on this a little bit, that defensive secondary. You've got experience there, too.
Yeah,
You think I'm putting the onus on you, Charlie?
I think so, a little bit. This is the first time in a while we're bringing back as many boys as we are. We've lost Stevie Pizzato for a few of the scrimmages, and we replaced him with a sophomore, Ben Bartone, who's done a very adequate job, which was a nice experience for everybody. Gave him some game experience just in case we need him. And we have Jeff Owens, who will be playing back there. He played back there last year, and Joey Martin will be back there also. So again, we do seem to have a little bit of depth in the secondary. That's something that's always a little bit tough. The toughest spot for us to fill right now is that split corner position, and that's where we feel right now we need the most work. That poor fellow's out there one-on-one a lot, and that's a tough job.
Let's get Todd Hunter in here. A lot of people don't realize that you know, Todd Hunter, he went down in the middle of that season last year. You counted on Todd Hunter an awful lot. And the second half of the season, that's when Derby did lose their only 2 games. Todd, what was it like? It had to be frustrating when you went down, could not play the rest of the year last year.
Yeah, it was. Watching the games from the sideline, I didn't like it at all. I wanted to be in the game, but there was nothing I could do but get ready for this year.
Have you recovered from that ankle injury?
Yeah.
No problem this year?
No problem. I rehabilitated during the off-season, and it feels good now.
Offensively or defensively, which one do you enjoy most, or is there a difference for you?
I think I like defense better because you get to hit people instead of getting hit on offense. So I think that's better. But I like offense too, though. Yeah.
Let's bring Mike Valentine into the picture too. Mike, you've been playing ever since the sophomore year. And now the coach is going to switch you offensively from the right tackle spot to guard. And of course, you've been playing linebacker ever since your sophomore year at Derby too. What does the season look like for you?
Looks pretty good. It's not a big change from tackle to guard. It's just more pulling
Mike,
around. And
well, I didn't want to interrupt, but how much time do you guys spend on weights? I know you guys come in with big upper bodies, and you've obviously been in a situation where you've worked the weights. How much time do you dedicate to the weights?
during the summer, it's almost every day, about an hour or 2 a day.
Do you guys lift as a team? Has it been a part of your conditioning to lift as a team?
Yep. Yeah, we try to get together as much as possible in high school and lift there.
Does it help the spirit of the football team to be together?
Yeah, I think so. If you're together, it's better than lifting out on separate.
Get more
where everyone's
friendlier,
going.
too.
You build a
You know
unity,
more of the people,
team
the younger
spirit.
kids.
Because you guys have obviously been together for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Coach, let's talk. Let's switch things back again. You have a couple of returning members of that offensive line. Mike being one, Chris Benanto. By the way, Chris unable to be with us at this taping, and he is the fourth captain for the Raiders for 1989. Right. Let's talk about some of the other young men we're going to be seeing offensively on the line.
All right, at center we have Robbie Hyder, who started our first scrimmage and actually injured his ankle in about the second quarter, I think. And we replaced him with Carl Salisbury, who's done a very, very good job for us. Both of those boys are juniors. At the left guard, we'll have Dave Chavarella, another junior. This will be his first start on the varsity. At left tackle, we'll have Matt Maruli, who's a senior. Matt was always ready to start, but unfortunately he had a little knee injury last year and never really got to play that much. And then Mikey and Chris will be on the right side, and Todd will be our swing tight end. So those are the guys that you see up front. Pat McMahon will back up the two guards as far as depth is concerned.
Fellas, let me address this to all three of you, if you want to answer. You guys have played a lot of games at night now. You've gone to the lights. Do you feel more comfortable at night playing night football? A lot of the Hoosier teams, is it?
A lot better.
Especially at home.
Especially at home.
Yeah.
More people show up.
Does it help you when the crowd is...
Get you more pumped. Feel more ready.
You guys are always ready. I know that. I've seen you.
Charlie, let's talk about the team or teams to beat in the Housatonic League. So far, the other Housatonic League coaches we've had, they all had at the top of the list North Haven.
I agree. North Haven's had an unbelievable run of freshman football teams for the last 4 years, buddy. You may know more than that. I don't think they've lost more than a handful of games in 4 years. I thought last year that their varsity squad was a pretty tough football team. I mean, they jumped out ahead of us 14-0, and we had to battle for every inch to get back into that ball game. And I think, you know, they're right on the line. You know, and once you poke over the top of that hill, the kids like it up there, you know, so they work very hard to stay there. I think North Haven has a good outside shot. And I also think Cheshire does, too. I thought Coach Adazio, you know, brought that program along a little bit last year. And, you know, the early part of their season will be important. Of course, they go up against Paul first, and then we have them second. Last year, they upset Paul, you know, and I think that spurred them a little bit, you know, and they could be tough. And then, of course, I you know, happen to see Tony a little bit. I agree. I mean, we have to also talk about the Valley schools. I still think, you know, it's still a Valley League. You know, they're going to be tough. And I don't want to leave out Ansonia because I think they may have the strongest team in the Valley, period.
What about Derby?
We're a contender. I'm not going to lie. I always come up here and I hide behind the truth, but I can't. You had me nailed here. We have a good group of kids coming back. We do. And I think I've spoken to the boys. They know what we expect, and we feel that people are looking at us to do well, and we want to do well. We have pride in ourselves, and we want to do well. Doesn't mean we're going to win undefeated. Doesn't mean we're going to win the league. But we certainly know that we're going out there. That's our goal, to win the league, and we hope we're good enough to do it.
Charlie, always a pleasure. Thanks, gentlemen, and we'll be right back with our next segment on Kickoff, a look at our Valley High School football teams right after this word. This is action in the Ansonia New London playoff game at Veterans Stadium in New Britain. The famous pass from Kevin Sharkey to Dave D'Onofrio come from behind victory for the Ansonia Chargers. And welcome back, everyone, for our final segment of our kickoff show. And joining us now is the head football coach of the Ansonia Chargers, Jack Hunt. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
And his three captains for the 1989 football season, from left to right, F.J. Burkowski, Chris Kinnebrew, and Michael Diudo. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Coach, a great moment, obviously, in Ansonia history of tradition and winning football. You've had 2 state titles. You feel more comfortable coming into this year?
No, not really. It's a tough act to follow. It still brings goosebumps on my arm and everything watching that play there. It's something that we watch a couple of nights a week at home, and it was a great victory. And the pressure's there. It's, you know, to repeat, it's still there.
Let me ask your captains, Jack, some questions at this time. FJ, new positions for you, both offensively and defensively. Last year you were a tight end on offense. Defensively, you were defensive end. This year you've been moved to tackle on offense, and on defense you're one of the middle linebackers. What adjustments have you had to make, and how do you feel about the new positions for you?
Well, for offense, I really didn't have to adjust that much because when I was at tight end, I was pretty much like a tackle with an 80 number anyway. But I'm happy about my defensive move because the linebacker, I get a lot more action than at the end position. So I like linebacker a lot. I always wanted to play linebacker instead of the end. So.
And you'll have that responsibility this year.
Coach, we've got a second tape on Fran Hendricks, obviously not back this year. Who on offense, with the offensive line, that offensive backfield, are going to be players to replace people like Hendricks?
Right now it looks like Kevin Sharkey, definitely is Kevin Sharkey who's going to be playing the running back position. 25 touchdowns is very difficult to replace.
Here's one of his runs this year, and he obviously was a great part of that offense.
He certainly was. He's going to be a very difficult player to replace. Like I said, 25 last year and 19 as a junior, so he can get it into the end zone.
Who's going to be your starting quarterback?
Keith Pelletowski is going to be the starting quarterback.
Speaking about that offense, you're going to have a big fullback this year, and let's direct the question to Bull Kinnebrew at this point. Chris Kinnebrew, of course, was the starting middle guard for Ansonia last year, and he saw some action at the end of the year in that wishbone in the fullback spot. This year, though, Chris has been taking that football in the scrimmages, and he's been looking quite good at the running back position. How do you like that running back spot, the fullback spot, Chris?
Well, you know, I like it. You know, when they give me the ball, I just run with it. I keep going and going and going until they get me down.
And I noticed, Chris, too, that in that wishbone, too, you're also counted on to a block for Kevin Sharkey and some of the other halfbacks, too.
Yeah. You got to make the block. That's the play ain't going on.
And let me direct the question quickly to Mike Diudo. Mike, two-way tackle for Ansonia this year, and the New Haven Register has projected you as a preseason All-State candidate at defensive tackle. Any added pressure going into the season?
Yeah, I take a lot of pressure on that, but I'll try not to think about it too much. I'll just play the best I can.
Do you have a preference, offense or defense, Mike?
Defense, but I think I'm better at offense. I need more work on defense.
Jack, one of the things we hear out of Ansonia is that you may have lights this year. Possibility of Ansonia playing night football?
Well, we don't know at this point if they'll be up in time for us to play a night game. We're hoping later on in the season, maybe around Sacred Heart game, that we'll get one in. But at this point, we don't really know.
What about your new kicker, exchange student? It's bad enough the Valley produces great players. You went out and got one from Spain. How's he doing?
We have a kid. His name is Nicholas Moran. He's from Spain. He's been here since the first day of school, and he's learning English pretty well. And,
how's your Spanish,
Does
Jack?
he know goal, touchdown yet?
He knows kick. We send him out there to kick. He has a very strong leg. The problem that we're having right now is a communication problem. So we're going to get him down to Yale this week to work with their kicker, who is a major in Spanish. So,
Jack, just switching to the defense for now. I know you have some returnees on the defensive line, and FJ is one of the young men you're counting at the middle linebacker spot. But let's talk a little bit about that defensive secondary. With the exception of Kevin Sharkey, brand new defensive secondary.
Yeah, we're pretty thin on defense. We have Kevin Sharkey's the only returning player in the secondary. We have we're looking at 3 other kids, and one of them is Dennis Tinney. He's at one corner, and the safeties are Robbie Clark and Carl Barrett right now. So we're all new players, inexperienced in the secondary.
Coach, how have you fared in the scrimmages this year?
We've won the 4 scrimmages that we've had so far.
Satisfied with the results?
For the most part, As far as I'm concerned, though, they're over, and this week starts a whole new season. And the first game right now is Holy Cross, and that's what we're aiming for right now.
Has the adjustment of a new coach been a change for you? Obviously, you're going to see a different type of offense and defense. Has it meant more preparation for you?
Yeah, we had the opportunity to scout them Friday night. They scouted us Saturday. We had an agreement with them. They're running a lot of wishbone, and they're basically in a 5. So it's something that we run. It's pretty much similar to our defense, and they run a lot of wishbone. So not a triple option team. They're more of a power wishbone.
Jack, what about the league itself, the Naugatuck Valley League? You're in the small division still. Who do you see as your main opponents there?
Well, it's the thing we always have to look forward, is the Thanksgiving game. That's a big one for us. But I think Sacred Heart's going to be tough again this year. We went up and observed them in the Jamboree Saturday, and they had some talented people. The quarterback was throwing the ball well, so I think they're going to be our major problem this year.
Thank you very much, Jack Hunt, and that is the word on Ansonia football for our kickoff show. Buddy and I will return right after this word. Well, Bud, we've had a chance to hear our 6 area football coaches and their captains. What do you think? Any comments or reactions to what the coaches and players had to say?
Well, I think obviously each coach feels that they're going to start the year and have a good season. I think they're going to. the Valley is very talented this year with football, and I think we're going to enjoy a great season. As we have in the past, we begin our 6th year. And it's been six years. People said it would never last.
That's right.
And I think the fans are going to be treated to a great season again.
Well, that's just about going to do it from here, but we want to remind our viewers that each and every game on Valley Cablevision is seen 3 times. The first replay is always Sunday evenings at 7 o'clock, the next day on Mondays at 6, and the following Friday at 7 o'clock. 3 play dates, play times for each football game. And our first game is going to be the Holy Cross Crusaders of Waterbury at Ansonia. For Buddy Chernovitz, this is Ed Clemens saying good night, everyone.